a lot of times people will share their Disney experiences as a way of communicating with me. And I'd like to set one out that will set context for us today. I was a Disney fan as a little tiny boy. And I remember that my grandparents owned a restaurant, and every Sunday it would be closed and we would watch the TV. And I was still young enough that Walt Disney would come on every Sunday. And this was a trip for a kid because he'd come on and talk about what he was building at Disneyland. And I would start to spin and levitate. And my dad would start to dread because he knew what we were about to talk about. I would go, I want to go to Disneyland. I want to go to Disneyland. And I wanted to badly. And my father did not want to go to Disneyland. He didn't get it. He didn't understand why anyone would drive hundreds of miles and spend hundreds of dollars to sit in a teacup. So what he would say to me is, yeah, well, I can't get the time off right now. The boss just won't give me the time off. One of these days, you know, the boss will give me some time off and we'll make a trip to Disneyland. But right now, I just can't get the time off. Now, I was not a dim-witted child. So when the company my father worked for had a big Christmas party, I knew the man that owned the company. It was a bottling company. I'd seen him before. So I marched right up to him. I had a little red bow tie. I was short for my age even then. And I go, hi, I don't know if you know, but I'm going to be 8 this year. And my little brother and I still haven't been to Disneyland. And my dad says that the reason that we can't go is because you won't give him the time off. So I was wondering if maybe this year you could give my dad some time so he could take my little brother and me to Disneyland. And this guy got a twinkle in his eye. He'd had a couple of drinks already, I think. And he picks me up. He throws me high in the air. He catches me on his knee and he looks around the room and he calls my dad over. And my dad walks up and sees me sitting in his boss's lap and knows this is not going to be good. And my dad's boss goes, so let me get this straight. Your boy here hasn't been to Disneyland and it's my fault. Is that about it? And my dad goes ashen white. And the guy goes, I don't think that's very fair. I mean, I've taken my kids to Disneyland. Larry, Joe, we've all taken our kids to Disneyland. I don't know why you can't take yours. Next year, when we have this party, I want to hear that these boys have been to Disneyland. So we leave the party and we get in the car and my dad is very unhappy. But I'd won because it was no time at all before we made the 4-hour drive to Anaheim. We lived in a small agricultural community in the center of California. We make the 4-hour drive. I was hyperactive clinically as a child. Even then, I've seen the movies of me meeting Mickey Mouse, bless my parents. And my dad starts having a good time. And he takes me into this theater called the Golden Horseshoe Revue, where they did this comedy Western country show for years and years and years, decades. And we go in. Now, I had never seen live theater. I'd never been in a theater like this. And this was lots of new data coming at a little country boy. And I'm watching the show and I'm watching the show. And all of a sudden, this guy comes out. His name was Wally Bogue. He did that show for 31 years. And he comes out and he had this shtick that he would do. And he kind of, and he would pick a kid out of the audience. And I was in the right place at the right time. He points to me and this little hyperactive mess comes walking up on stage and I stand next to him. And I did what kids typically do. I went, nothing. And this guy's, and I'm just, nothing. I'm petrified. And to this day, it's been over 50 years. And I can remember standing on that stage, petrified, and the light hitting me. I didn't know how hot it was going to be. And I didn't know that you wouldn't be able to see your parents out there. And I remember being transfixed on the particles of dust that were in the light. And this guy was a pro. He gets down and he takes my little hand in his and he applies pressure 3 times, gently but firmly. He said, 1, 2, 3. He holds my hand. He gets down head to head with me. We look out into the theater. He holds my hand real tight and he makes this sound and gesture. He goes, and when he did that, he grounded the moment that we were sharing. And I was able to enter it and I took a breath. And I looked at him and I looked out there and I looked at him and I looked out there and I had no way of knowing that in about 20 years, I was going to find myself on that stage, in that show, in his costume. And it would be my job to find a child, to find the right soul in the audience, bring them up on stage where they would almost invariably freeze. And then I would be blessed with a marvelous moment of recognition where I would take their little hand in mine, and it's the same. 1, 2, 3. And when I did that, everything looked the same as when I was them. It sounded the same as when it felt the same. And I had no way of knowing which kid would remember, which would forget, or who in 40 years might be talking to cityCURRENT, talking about that experience. I didn't. And that meant I had to do it every single time, not just because it defined service at the Walt Disney Company, it defined myself.